The seeds for my book were planted right here in the JCC, actually. And to think about, well, what does the Schwitz at the JCC have anything to do with marriage or commitment phobia? It's a good question. Throughout my 20s and 30s, I struggled with a profound fear of intimacy. And all the professionals seem to think that guys like me, women and men like me, were beyond repair. And, you know, that news for me was depressing, not because of marriage. I could care less about getting married. I wanted kids. So in 1999, when I turned 30, and I was still very single, I thought it was time for a life change. And where do Montrealers go when they want to reinvent themselves? They move to Vancouver. You move to Tofino if you really want to get away from your parents. I heard about a series of talks taking place here at the JCC in the art gallery by the late Dr. David Freeman. Anybody know David? Okay. David said something that changed my life professionally and personally. He said that our relationship problems are actually unfinished family business to work through. And if we ignore that, we pass that unfinished family business on to our kids. And I found that idea frightening and yet hopeful. But what does any of that have to do with commitment phobia? And how do you work through unfinished family business? I asked this to David, and people in the audience started saying, you know, you should read David Snarch, Harriet Lerner, and all these marriage therapists. But all the books were written for people, couples who were teetering towards divorce. They weren't written for people like me, single and anxious about commitment. So I made a promise to myself, should I ever meet someone and find these ideas helpful, I'll write that book. A year later, I met my wife on a website called Frumster.com, and a few years after that, we were getting married under a chuppah here in the JCC, in the art gallery where I first heard David speak. I started writing a book. In 2008, I opened a private practice in Toronto, and I called David and asked him to be my supervisor. On every consulting call, David would say to me, Avram, write your book. Start writing your book. Tragically, David died before I finished writing my book. I dedicated my book to my wife, my parents, and to the late Dr. David Freeman. Thank you.